this is Eric Reeds. January 6th, which is yesterday as of the time of recording and probably uploading this, was the Stambler Open. This was an incredibly stacked RS to PK event. Um, you may not think it from looking at these top results here, um, but if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that this was actually an incredibly stacked tournament. Just a whole lot of killers in this one, um, and I played in it. I went 3-2 with Ratlock, but that's not why I'm making this video. I'm making this video to talk about the top eight results, and I want to talk about their deck choices and also their lists because I think that's an interesting thing to come out of these. RS to PK is a constantly evolving metagame, and I want to kind of show off some of these creative deck building choices. So in top eight we have Tobi Okaka, Ashley Richards, Autumn Lamb, and May. So notice also Tomiokaka is from Japan, so that's four Japanese players in the top eight, and the top two were Japanese. So Japan really came out in this tournament, and I'm glad that uh, the time zone that the tournament was played in allowed for so many different players of so many regions to kind of come together and compete. And Japan really, proving that they are not to be trifled with an RS to BK. I think they kind of have a reputation of uh, being inferior to Western players, or at least some people would consider that an opinion. But more and more, I just become convinced that that's kind of bullshit. They definitely, I mean, playing against them and seeing these results, if this doesn't convince you, I don't know what will. Anyway, so starting it off, we have Tomio Kaka's bomb caddy list. So some things to note here is that he plays the a split of the skitties. So he plays one of the minor errand running skitty. So it's actually interesting. I usually don't like the 40 HP skitty in bomb caddy because it's pretty often that you need to time machine the Delcatties. Excuse me. I just woke up. Uh, but anyways, it's pretty common that you need to time machine the Delcatties, and so having a high HP skitty I think is worth it. But including one and just not time machining that one if it hits 40, gets 4 damage counters on it is an interesting way to go about it. Um, he does play the 3/4 Delcatty, the 2/2 Voltorb Electrode. Some players opt for 2/3. Um, and he's also playing two Dunsparce with no Tauros, which is an interesting take. If you also notice, he's playing three Windstorm. He's not playing all four, and he is bumping that Swoop Teleporter up to four. I know a lot of players play three. I play two. Um, and perhaps most interesting about this list is that it kind of can pivot into this Rockets Wobbuffet, um, you know, Cessation Crystal hideout combo with the four pals. I've thought about doing Minun in this deck even to kind of recur those pals, but I think Wobbuffet is a really instructive play as well. A lot of times with Bomb Caddy specifically, you'll get into situations where you'll have like six cards in deck or something, and um, with Wobbuffet, if you Dark Aid and shuffle like three pals back, you can energy draw three times and basically draw your whole deck, and Get all the pals back as you want. I'm sorry. um, it's a really cool list. The hideout, the cess. I lost to Tomi Okaka in the Swiss actually because the last card he drew in his deck was the Cessation Crystal to get him out of Wobbuffet Lock, which was pretty wild. I was not expecting that. But yeah, really cool list. Definitely gonna have to try to play this a little bit. The Rocket Wobbuffet is just a really instructive deck building choice, and congratulations to him. This is a incredible result that he had. Um, Going 3-2 in Swiss in this event was not easy. Like um, there was some killers in this tournament. Up next, we've got Ashley Richards, Dragonite Delta, Dragonite EX. So the first thing I immediately noticed was that they don't play the Twister Dragonair, and they only play one Dragonair. A lot of these Dragonite EX lists tend to play pretty high counts of like the Dragonairs, and they kind of rely less on candy. But Ashley's list really just is playing it as if it's not even a trainer lock deck in that regard. It's playing heavy rare candy count. Um, Also, Force Swoop is very interesting. I've never seen that before in Dragonite. And something else interesting is that they're playing Force Swoop and no Jirachi, um, which is interesting. They're opting for the Giraffe rig to kind of shut the setup down. I think Giraffe rig is a really good choice in RS2PK in general. It can help you set up in a similar way that Jirachi can, but it also just really hoses other Jirachi. And there's just so many decks, like so many stage 2 decks that really rely on Jirachi to get the ball rolling. And so um, it's definitely worth playing Giraffe Rig in these decks uh, that aren't relying on Jirachi themselves. Other than that, the two Lunatone, one Solrock is kind of a throwback to how players would play the lineup, the Lunar Rock lineup back in 2006 meta, back when it was actually 2006. Um, and I feel like with the four swoop, that's perfectly reasonable. Opting for four admin and two Scott is also an interesting supporter lineup decision. Just kind of thickening out those lines. For admin is something that I've shied away from, but watching the top eight, there were a whole lot of just times where one player would need to admin the other one in these end game situations, kind of as a checkmate. And I imagine that Ashley played for admin for that reason. Um, Two Curse Stone and two Crystal Beach, not really wanting to go overboard on any particular stadium. And you don't need to with these trainer lock decks a lot of the time, especially with double Scott. You're gonna be getting access to those fairly frequently. And the energy lineup is pretty normal for this deck. You play with the Collins Castform line, a lot of Delta Rainbows, a lot of Warps, and yeah. So, congratulations to Ashley. Not like not straying too far from the Dragonite EX formula here, but showing why Dragonite is considered a top deck in this format. Um, so then up next, also in top eight, we have Autumn Lamb on Rags. And I remember Little River was going to play against Autumn, and I was messaging him like, "All right, like this is what she's got. Like, be careful of this, be careful of that." Um, and it's really like I was kind of going like I basically mentioned all of the like interesting deck building decisions that Autumn made, uh, and so First thing to note is the 3-3 Raichu line. Uh, Kind of skimming down on that, and even skimming down on the retriever line. I know some players play thinner lines of either the Executor or the Raichu in Rags, and just play a higher retriever count. But it's looking like Autumn opted to just say, "Hey, I'm gonna make it work with the 4-4 and the 3-3." Also playing a 1-1 Cloister. Um, that's a decision that I have seen other players make in this deck specifically. Cloister is useful in situations like it's not just useful for the bench damage, but it also stops attacks like drag off or even something like Murkrow, um, using Night Song or Roselia using Flick Poison. So it's kind of might not look like it, but it can help against these like Stally or control decks as well as things like Bombtar or whatever. Um, Onto the supported lineup. Again, this thick four admin count. No Stevens advice is interesting. I know a lot of these Ryags decks opt for one because they kind of have the space to play with. Oh wait, no, there's a Stevens advice. um, and two researcher. I feel like they don't often play this, but that's a completely reasonable deck building choice. One POW. I think POW is really good in this deck from when I've played against it. Just one is fine. You don't really want to brick on it. No Castaway. I know that some players opt to play that. No, not really any other crazy techs. I know some players play like ATM Rock or Solid Rage or that kind of thing. And also, just going strictly on the Curse Stone, not messing around with any Desert Ruins or anything like that. So, very, very just honed in on, hey, I'm going to be playing against powers. If I play against, you know, Railer, then the Desert Ruins is going to make much of a difference. I don't know if you saw, but there wasn't a single Railer or Camler player this tournament, or Mutrick. Is very focused away from that style of deck. And then lastly, the energy count. Only 3 DRE is something that I have not really seen before in this sort of deck, but uh, it's certainly worked for Autumn, and who knows, maybe that's the way to go with Rags. Also, I wanted to mention no swoop is very interesting. I think that playing a swoop is pretty critical for situations where you're playing against these lock decks, because getting a Cast Swarm or a Magnemite stuck on the bench can really be tough. But Autumn just saying, you know what, if it happens, it happens, and I'm gonna try to worry about the other matchups more with this heavy Curse Stone lineup, with this Cloister, and yeah, so great stuff to Autumn. And then the last top 8 player we're gonna look at is May on Bombtar, and opting for the single Jirachi. I know that a lot of Bombtar lists usually bump this up to 2. No Lapras either, and it's a it's playing the Lunar Rock package. We saw quite a few Stage 2 decks. Of course, we saw Machamp, we saw LBS, we saw Rat, and so the Lunar Rock package definitely is going to come in handy against quite a bit of the field. Um, and then other than that, it's a fairly standard lineup on the Pokemon side. It's always interesting to see what exactly the Bombtar player is going to, include as their like tech idea of choice. And so for me, it was the Lunar Rock package and also no Lapras. Um, really just just saying, you know what, I don't want to put myself in a situation where the Lapras gets powed or the Lapras gets hit with unknown E. Um, they're also playing the Versus Seeker with no Brinies, which is very interesting. I remember when we were looking at the list, uh, when we were watching their Top Cut game, and I was looking at it like, okay, there's a Versus Seeker, so like I'm sure they're gonna Brinies. They have a Brinies that's like something to keep in mind, but no, they just don't play Brinies. They play no Switch cards of any kind, no Warp Energy, no Brinies, which is very brave, but I'm sure that they know what they're doing. Um, the Versus Seeker mostly just there to get back the admin, so almost like they're playing five admin. Um, and it's an instructive play. I haven't really thought about it for Bombtar, but I don't play this deck personally. Other than that, it's pretty standard. One swoop is kind of cutting it close, and three rockets Pokeball is probably pretty high by Bombtar counts. Um, and the single rare candy is kind of funny, but I get it. And then the energy lineup, I'm pretty sure this is very standard. Uh, four scramble, four darkness are kind of non-negotiable, and then the two fire, the two Holland, and the two heal to kind of round out Bombtar as a tank. So yeah, this one, I think the Lunar Rock package went a long way. As we saw, there are just a whole bunch of Stage 2 decks in the format right now, as we kind of are shying away, at least for this event, from the Stantler decks. And yeah, great stuff to May, being the highest placing Bombstar player here. And yeah, we're just going to move right along into top four. So starting off in top four, we have James Arnold's Nidoqueen. I remember when we were looking at this in their Top Cut match. Or I don't even know if we showed him in their Top Cut. This wasn't that long ago, but I watched their match against Little River. Um, oh yeah, no, we watched James Arnold versus May, I believe. Yeah. So the first thing to note is that they are playing a thick Pidgeot line, and they're also playing the 1-1 Sceptile EX, or 101 Sceptile EX line. Uh, we saw quite a few bomb decks in this tournament. We saw Machamp, we saw ZRE, we saw Bombtar, of course, Bombcatty. So this Sceptile EX just can really hose those decks if you can get it out quickly enough. Um, and a lot of the times, players won't know that you're on the Sceptile EX, so they like it. Against Sceptile EX decks, they're gonna try to bomb first so they can get that initiative, get that pal, get that admin. But if they think that you're just a regular Nidoqueen, they're probably gonna hold off on the pal. And so Sceptile EX and Nidoqueen specifically against a deck that already like could do well against something like Bombtar, it becomes very useful. So the 4-3-4, having a thick Nidorina line as well as a thick Pidgeot line, really just making the consistency of this deck go through the roof, as Nidorina are good searchers in their own right. Also playing the one Jirachi. I don't think I've ever seen this in Nidoqueen, but I guess sometimes it's just nice to have something that can really be your consistency card, even if you are short on energy. So definitely a cool choice, and have to play around with it more in my own Need to Queen lists. Um, Onto the trainer lineup. It's very like standard. It's very like no nonsense. No copycat, relying strictly on four admin. Uh, Not something I could ever do, but it definitely worked for James, and James knows a lot about this deck, so uh, something worth considering. Um, Also playing no Windstorm and no Retriever, opting only to play the Desert Ruins, and this kind of did come to bite him. Uh, against Little River, whenever the cess went up, it was just kind of hard to get it out of the way. And Nina Queen does have options, like the fact that it can hit for like Toxic is just such a good way of getting rid of these low HP cess mons, and like eventually the cess will go away because they're gonna have to retreat or it's gonna get KO'd. Um, but yeah, the four desert ruins really just saying like, all right, I want to have outs to these Ray EX decks and these Sceptile decks, anything else that could come my way. Um, and then the double brinies. I'm kind of surprised there's no Versus Seeker in this. I feel like one briny is one Versus Seeker maybe could be more efficient, but um, who am I to question the top eight, the top four rather, top four need a queen list. And then for the energy, it's interesting that they went about it this way. So six grass, four DRE, pretty standard, and then one warp energy, which I think is a great choice. I love warp energy in Need a Queen. I play two in my list. I think it's just really nice to have this reusable switch. And Need a Queen is a deck that doesn't need to have its energy attachment every turn be like um, necessary to attacking because Media Queen only needs one energy to attack. Um, and then the one multi is really interesting. It's I guess it's there so that under Crystal Beach you can still use Power Lariat, and it also acts as a toxic energy with the grass. So really cool list all around. Make some decisions that I would like some of them that I would consider to be like very instructive, and some of them that I find like I couldn't play this, but I guess that's how it goes with all these top eight lists. Um, but yeah, very awesome list. Uh, Definitely a meta call that worked out well. I think Nita Queen is a very good deck, and with Sceptile EX, just affording it that extra flexibility against these bomb decks really paid off. Next up, we have Rogar. Um, I have been playing against Rogar for the last like 2 or 3 weeks, and a Little River and I were just like playing decks that performed really well against Bayonet, and it's awesome that he stuck to his guns and he just said like, you know what, I'm just gonna hope I don't run into those decks, and if I do, I'm just gonna do my best, and it worked out. Um, he was able to he took the loss to Bombtar, but everything else he just kind of cleaned house with, um, and that's how Bayonet is. You are going to lose some of these, really hard matchups, but everything else you do pretty well against, and Rugar just showing that uh, if you play well and you get a little bit of bracket luck, then you can definitely go really far with this deck. As to his list itself, plays the Crystal Guardians Bayonet as well as the Bayonet EX. Opting for no Legend Maker Lunatone is an interesting decision, but a very thick Luna Rock line. Very determined to shut off that Pidgeot by any means necessary. And like we said, there were a whole bunch of Pidgeot decks in this event. So it also shuts off Delcatty, and Bomb Caddy is, I think, with this Time Machine variant, definitely a deck that needs to be accounted for. Um, and opting for the two Lunatone as just like the backup attacker. If you're playing four Rainbow Energy, then I think you don't even really need the fighting, but you can definitely play the fighting as well, just to have Lunatone as that, you know, attacker against decks like Bombtar or against like Rocket Sneasel EX. So yeah, it's a cool lineup. No Jinx, but he does opt for the Jolteon Star as kind of like a double plus power of sorts. Um, And then the trainer lineup again, four admin. So all these players on four admin just about, just really committed to disrupting their opponent and trying to have early game consistency. Holland Engine going for high counts of all these supporters. Two Castaway along with a buffer piece and a Crystal Shard even. So really the shard, as a Dragonite, Dark Dragonite hate card, and the buffer piece did come up quite a bit as a way to, just put your opponent in these like checkmate scenarios. Like, all right, you probably haven't been thinking about Windstorm all game, but like, do you have the Windstorm right now? Because if not, you're not going to KO Bayonet, and then you're going to be in a world of hurt. Um, for the stadiums, no Desert Ruins, just playing Triple Crystal Beach, as well as a Phoebe Stadium. Um, so, like, this deck has a whole bunch of Switch and Warp cards. He was really determined not to let his Bayonets or anything else get trapped by these lock decks. And so, the double Warp Point, double Warp Energy, Phoebe Stadium, all of these are just kind of ways to try to get out of the active position by any means. And there's a lot of diverse ways to do it. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. Um, in the energy lineup, fairly straightforward, I think. But the two warp energy is probably the more atypical. I think a lot of them only play one or zero. Um, But yeah, I really like this list. And if I were to play Bayonet, I would probably play something similar to this. I think that the Lunar Rock package is just really nice in this. Um, no Girafarig. I was trying to get him on this, but uh, who knows? He didn't need it evidently, and I think he did excellent this tournament. And congratulations to him. And then top two, second place is Little River on Destiny. Um, Little River himself has written uh, an absolute novel about this deck. It's evolved a lot, even though the core idea is still the same. And this list that he brought, in particular, he played. Is it this one? Yeah. He played this promo Mew that he and I were discussing, um, like I think like a few months ago even, and I was saying, against these Executor, these scrambled eggs decks, and even against something like Machamp, uh, this Mew promo with Psywave can really just take out Executor in one hit very easily, and De-Evolution Beam is funny at the very least. But it's primarily a card, and with we knew Jason was going to be playing in this event, probably with Scrambled Eggs. He might have known Kenten was playing Machamp, and then there's also just the fact that Destiny as a deck struggles against Scrambled Eggs, so anybody else on the deck uh, could be could be bad for Destiny. So I wonder if it's something that he's going to play consistently going forward. If he was satisfied with his performance in this event, or if he's just gonna say like, if I play scrambled eggs, then whatever, it happens. I know we couldn't execute in order to fit it in here, so we'll see. Other than that, um, I don't know if Destiny is a deck that even has a quote unquote standard list other than the one that Little River plays, but I think that this list is great. Um, it's got just a whole bunch of like good attackers in it. The Executor is a fantastic attacker in this format. Nice fighting type, two energy. It can spread damage. It can hit hard. You can throw assess on it. It's just a very solid attacker. Um, slimming down to two Ray EX. I know he often played at least three. Um, but I guess considering that he has to fit all this other stuff into it, including this Mew and some other cards we'll get to later. It makes sense. Um, and Other than that, it's fairly straightforward. You want to play the other Mews to kind of copy attacks and have more type diversity, as well as Latios EX to hose Arcanine EX. And For the trainer lineup, kind of slimming down on some cards that for a long time were kind of considered, must-haves at high counts. Only three Castaway, only three Admin, only one Lynette's, although there is a Mentor as well. Um, he's kind of adopted this like semi Holland package where he's on the heavy adventurer account and he's playing the researcher and the scientist and just the one transceiver to kind of tutor into any of those. But the other supporters are going to be more useful for him generally. Castaway, I mean, you want to have a Castaway engine in this deck. It is a cess deck, and it is nice to have energy every turn off of that Castaway. Um, Also on the warp point as well as the swoop. This came in handy in him in his game against me for sure. Just having all of these ways to kind of get the active out of whatever bad position it's in, along with the balloon berry that's searchable by castaway, the double warp energy, the Holland's cast form to get the warp energies back. Um, just a deck that is not going to lose by these padlock strategies for the most part, and very, very prepared for those decks. And so I think Destiny is kind of demonstrating that it's a deck that it can struggle, but it beat Nidoqueen, which is a deck that it can oftentimes struggle against, and it was ready for Scrambled Eggs, which is a deck it struggles against. And I think that Little River just showing that he's got the sauce and he knows what to do. He's able to adjust it for the metagame and adjust it, uh, modernize it with this mini Holland engine. Um, and I think it's awesome that he was able to perform this way. I'm really proud of him. Really happy for him. And the energy count. Nothing too crazy. The only thing is really that high warp count and no water energy. I keep trying to get him to play this so that he can search out the water and attack with Latios. But maybe someday. Maybe someday. I know the Arcanine is not very popular in Japan, so that's part of why he doesn't consider it essential. And he's also way better than me with his deck and knows it way better than me. So I'm sure he knows what he's doing there. And then first place, Canton's incredible 8-0 finish with Bomb Champ. I'm pretty sure this deck only dropped one game to Bayonet, which it beat. It beat Bayonet with a Lunar Rock, like a thick Lunar Rock line, which is insane. Watching Canton in the finals or the top cut was pretty magic. I I don't know how he won some of those games, but a truly incredible finish in a very stacked tournament to go 8-0 is pretty ridiculous. Beating good players along the way. He beat three of the top cup players in Swiss, as well as beating. Wait, no, he beat four top eight players in Swiss, and he beat KG. All right, that's insane. That's actually insane. And he didn't really get like insane matchup luck either. Like this deck kind of preys on Bomb Tart, but he only played the one, so geez. I didn't even realize that. Wow. So onto the list. I'll be honest, I have not played Bomb Champ at all, and basically everything I know about the deck is from players like Kenton, Japanese players who have honed the deck. And it's been known to be a solid deck, but I think this performance really, puts it into the stratosphere. Like this is a deck you need to really be prepared for because it does some crazy things. So It plays the classic 204 Pidgeot line. This is a common idea in Japanese deck building. You say, I'm not going to play Elms. I just want to play high Pidgeot, draw into the Pidgeot, mentor for the Pidgey, have the candy in hand, and just go from there. Um, Paid off for him in this event. Fantastic. I think with the two Jirachi, it definitely helps to get these, you know, help get these Pidgeots early, along with the four admin and the two mentor to really kind of just make sure that you're always going to have enough cards in hand and enough searching, and that you can rely on those cards to get your Pidgeot line going instead of relying on Elms. Um, the Fire Mew came up against Bayonet. It was able to KO Bayonet and put Bayonet into this checkmate scenario. Um, the I don't exactly know what this is being played for. It might be for Sceptile, if I were to guess, um, because I know that Sceptile EX is trouble for these bomb decks, and so I imagine that that's what the idea was for this one. Um, and also, no Roselia Legend Maker. I know that some of them play this, but I think Canton has in the past even, but here just opting to say no if I get like I don't need to tank with Machamp. I need to focus on my problem matchups. Um, the trainer lineup plays one Stevens Vice, great card. I always want to include this in decks, but it's just kind of hard to fit sometimes. Brinies along with the Versus Seeker for both of them. Uh, so when we saw this come up, where like you put all this damage on this 120 HP attacker, and it can just all go away in an instant. Other than that, fairly typical lineup. Heavy windstorm count, only three pals. I guess just saying, I don't really want to, POW to stall for time or like anything like that, or like POW something. You can't do like the spinning tail and hit the bench like Bomb Tar can. So just relying on these three pals to kind of carry you, and with Pidgeot you can search it out easier. So I guess that also makes sense. And then the one solid rage, this came up a lot where you just want to hit these higher thresholds, especially against decks that resist you, and it's a great card in this deck. And then the energy lineup, again, fairly streamlined. For React Energy, of course, to fighting, to Rainbow. Just for the Mew, seems nice to have, as well as being able to attack with Electro DX if you need to, and Jirachi, I guess. And then the one Warp Energy. Not playing any Warp points in the deck, so, just committing to that. And I think with that, the Brinies and the Versus Seeker, it's probably enough. I mean, it was for this event. And so, yeah, really, I hadn't even looked at who Canton played in Swiss, but yeah, this is like an absolutely insane run, and I think that we're going to see this deck be respected more in the top tables, because something like this is not just a fluke. Um, and yeah, so that's going to do it for the video. I really just wanted to cover these top 8 lists and just kind of show off the creative deck building choices, the innovation that these players had, and just kind of give players the ability to play these decks for themselves and see what they like, see what they don't. Um, and I also wanted to call to attention that the top 18 decks of this tournament, so basically everything that you are seeing on screen, plus a little more, Kenton and Shiro, first and 18th. All of these decks are different decks, like different strategies. So we have Bomb Champ, we have Destiny, Bayonet, Nita Queen, Bomb Tar, Ryags, Dragon IDX, Bomb Caddy, Dragtrode, Vileplume, Ratlock, Fossil Box, Sceptile, Blastoise, uh, Scrambled Eggs, ZRE. Oh, okay. Uh, Gardevoir. Okay, maybe the top 17 because this was in their Sceptile. But yeah, so many decks in this incredibly diverse format. It's been really cool to see, and that's one of the things I love about RS to PK. There's really, like, I guess in some regards it's frustrating because you can't really like account for every deck at once, and you're gonna like Bana is gonna struggle against Dragtrode, and Dragtrode is gonna struggle against Destiny, and so on. But it's really cool to just see a format where like you could pretty much play any good deck, and it's going to probably do something well. Um, and so really awesome to see this great turnout for this event. A whole lot of diversity in deck decisions, and I'm really excited for the next one. And I hope that we get even more players and even more decks. And so that's going to do it. Thank you for watching this video, and yeah, thanks.